Canada has cancelled its digital services tax aimed at US tech companies in an effort to move trade talks forward with the United States. This decision came just days after the US President Donald Trump ended the ongoing trade negotiations. The move from Ottawa is aimed at reviving stalled trade talks with the US. The cancellation averts a $2 billion bill for US companies and potential new tariffs on Canadian goods. Here's the report.
No, I didn't speak to the president.
Canada walked back on its digital services tax in anticipation of a mutually beneficial comprehensive trade arrangement with the US. Earlier, Ottawa announced to impose a digital services tax on American tech firms after US President Donald Trump called it direct and blatant attack on the US and announced to suspend trade talks with Canada. But the Canadian government said in anticipation of a trade deal, Canada would rescind the digital services tax. The tax was scheduled to take effect on Monday. It would have hit US tech firms like Amazon, Google, Meta, Uber, and Airbnb with a 3% tax on their revenue from Canadian users. Retroactively, it would have cost US firms about $2 billion. The Canadian Parliament passed the Digital Services Tax Act on June 20, 2024. This tax was to be implemented on June 30, 2025. But hours before its implementation, the Canadian government took a U-turn on it. Canadian PM said he wants to continue discussions with the US in the interest of the Canadian public. According to official data, Canada is the largest buyer of US goods at $349 billion last year and sold $413 billion worth of goods to the US. After Mexico, Canada is the second largest business partner of the US. Canada was spared from the broad tariffs imposed by Trump in April, but it still has to pay a 50% tax on steel and aluminum. President Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney aim to reach a deal by 21st July 2025. Both leaders had met earlier this year to set a 30-day deadline for progress. The two countries are also negotiating the removal of heavy US tariffs. These include a 50% tax on steel, a 25% tax on autos, and a 10% tax on general imports. Bureau Report for DD India.